Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing all right. I'm not going to even lie to you. I don't even know what today is. I don't know what the date is. I've just been working hard. Hey, God told me to do this, so I am obeying. What's up, Dorian? How you doing, brother? I'm obeying the Lord, and what I want to do is present to you the shorter version of the message I gave last night. And the message was and is entitled, When God Allows You to Suffer. So here we go. The United States government has an agency by the name of the Secret Service. The Secret Service has a couple of missions, but the number one mission that is most important to us is they provide 24-hour protection for the President of the United States. It doesn't matter who is in office. I know always people have opinions and positions about who is in office, but rather the position requires 24 hours of protection. And you know what? I was doing some research on the Secret Service, and I found out that the 24-hour protection that they provide, it has not always been the case. If Grover Cleveland was here today, he would tell you that he was around when the Secret Service was giving part-time protection. Meaning the first 12 hours of his day were wonderful because he had somebody protecting him. He had somebody making sure that nobody was getting at him. But at the second half of the day, he almost lost his mind because that protection that he always received in the blink of an eye was gone. Have you ever been in a situation in your life where you felt as though God seemingly was providing you part-time protection when he should have been providing you full-time protection? And today, I know that we suffer. I know we feel as though that life isn't fair. I know we feel as though that when we should be protected, we're not. So my only goal is to get into your understanding the plan that God has for you. We may not figure out why we suffer, but we will figure out how we get through the suffering. So the President of the United States understands the importance of protection, and I will venture to say Job also understands the issue of protection. I talked about last night that in the Bible, in the book of Job, we find a man who is the richest man in the land of Uz. I'm telling you, Job is living a wonderful life. I know he's living a wonderful life because it declares that he's the richest man in the land of Uz. He has 7 sons and 3 daughters. God bless him. He has 10 children. He has 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and he has many servants. I'm talking about Job is living a wonderful life. How many of y'all have servants out there? I know I don't have any servants. This man is rich in the land of Uz. You've read the story before, the man by the name of Job. And to the average person, people would feel as though he has nothing to worry about. Have you ever been in a position in your life where things have been going great for you? You've been making a lot of money. You've lived to see your kids flourish. The things that you have wished and hoped for, you've gotten it. You have been living a life that has been great. That is the same predicament that we find Job in Job chapter 1. But it seems as though when his life was going well, God sees this opportunity to test him. What am I talking about? I'm talking about before we even get into the subject of Job, we find God in the heavenly realm, and we find God speaking with his angelic hosts, and here comes Satan. I would exit stage left and tell you that sometimes when everything is going well, here comes Satan. But that's another sermon for another day. But here comes Satan, and God says, where did you come from? Why are you here, in essence? And Satan says, I'm here because I've been observing everything on the earth. I've been patrolling the earth and observing everything in it. And in true fashion, God wants to one-up Satan and says, have you observed my servant Job? Yeah. Have you observed my servant Job? He is the richest man in the land of Uz. He is blameless. He has integrity. He fears God, and he also stays away from evil. He is describing a wonderful man. He says, have you observed my servant Uz? And he says, yeah, have you observed him? And what does Satan say? Satan says, oh yeah, he sure is blameless. He sure is full of integrity. He sure does have the fear of God, and he does stay away from evil. But here's the kicker. Satan says he's only doing all of that because you have blessed him. He's only doing all of those good things because you have protected his home, you have protected his family, you have protected his mind, you have protected his sanity. He's only obeying you and submitting to you because all you do is give him blessings, God. And then here's another kicker. Satan tells God, take away everything he has. Strip him of the things he loves. Strip him of the things he cherishes. Strip him of all the successes he's made. Strip him of everything he's wanted to rejoice in, and I guarantee you he will curse your name. So what I want to tell you today is, if you are going through a suffering time, if God is allowing you to suffer, here's point number one, and I hope you're taking notes. Point number one is, when God allows you to suffer, it may be because he's trying to figure out if the relationship you have with him is conditional. I'm going to say that one more time. If God is allowing you to suffer, it may be because he's trying to figure out if your relationship with him is conditional. What am I talking about? You know what the word condition means. If you don't, let me just explain it to you like this. I'm a contracting officer, and in the contracts we write, we put terms and conditions. And when the contractor signs the contract, he or she is in essence saying, I will perform the work. I will do a good job. I will submit to what the requirements are, and only if the terms and conditions are met. And so, you know what? I have a sneaking suspicion today that some of us, and I'm guilty of it too, some of us worship God only when the conditions are right. Some of us worship God, and some of us go into his house, and some of us praise his name only when we feel good. We praise him when the money is right. We praise him when the relationships are good. We praise him when everything is right. But come on now, I think God reserves the right to realize and test us to see if we really are loving him unconditionally. Somebody say unconditionally. When you're going through suffering, I know you know the specific area that you're suffering in, but when you're going through suffering, it may not be all because of you. It may be because God wants to figure out if the relationship you have with him is real. After all, we serve a God who is unconditionally loving. It doesn't matter what you have done. It doesn't matter what bad day you've had. He's always allowed you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off with his help to get you back in right standing. I don't know about you, but I'm so glad that I serve an unconditional God. Doesn't matter what my mess is, he's still there to take me back. So yes, that was point number one. If you're going through a time where God is allowing you to suffer, he may be doing that because he wants to figure out if your relationship with him is based on a condition. So that is what we find in the book of Job in the beginning, where God is saying, okay, well, you want to figure out, Satan, if the relationship I have with him is genuine and unconditional? Go ahead and test him. And the minute that Satan is granted the authority to test Job, Satan disappears from the Lord's presence. If you're staying with me, I'm talking about when God allows you to suffer. And so I know you're trying to figure out, well, how does Job's life compare to mine? I told you in the beginning that Job had 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen. I know y'all are like, that's just some animals. What you talking about? Back in the day, that was money. Don't get it twisted. That wasn't just some animals. That was his way of making income. Don't you know he was tending the land and making transactions based on the livestock that he had. And he also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. So he's living a blessed life, but here his life changes in 48 hours. Come on, somebody say 2 days. In 2 days, his life drastically changes. What am I talking about? I'm talking about on one day, Job is sent a message, and the messenger said, your oxen, or your oxen, the 500 teams of oxen that you had, they were plowing and the donkeys were feeding beside them. But guess what? The Sabaeans raided us. They stole all the animals and killed all the farmhands. That was his first source of income being taken away from him. And then right after that message, another messenger came up and said, guess what, Job? The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all of the shepherds. I came to tell you that was another time. That's the second time that his second source of income is taken away. And it didn't stop there. Another messenger came up and said, a third messenger came up and said, 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. So I'm trying to tell y'all, please don't think about it as animals. Equate it to money. All his oxen, all his donkeys, all his camels, all his sheep, they're taken away at the blink of an eye. Have you ever been in a situation where all the things you put your trust in, all the things that brought you income, all the things that brought you happiness and provided a way of life for you was taken away in the blink of an eye? This is what Job is going through, and it doesn't stop there. After that message, here's the one that I almost lost my mind when I heard this message. He said, the messenger arrived and said, Job, your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home when suddenly a powerful wind swept in from the wilderness and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed and somebody say all your children are dead. So not only was he losing all of his ways to make money by the stealing and the killing of his livestock, he learns that all 10 of his children are dead. I don't know about you, but Job is going through some times of terror. He's going through some times of disgust and pain right now because he's losing everything that he has ever worked hard to rejoice and get. So he's going through a tough time, and that was on day 1. And day 2, it didn't stop there. On day 2, we find that Job is struck with boils from Satan. Satan gives him boils, and I'm just want to survey the audience right here. Who's ever had boils on them? Who's ever had boils on them? You don't want to be honest with me. Yes, I have had boils on me. And like I said yesterday, my wife has had the unfortunate task of popping them for me. And you know what? When you got boils, them jokers hurt. But so I've only had 1 or 2 boils. I'd look at a man in the text today by the name of Job, and the text says that he had boils all over his body. He had boils from his head to his feet. So in 2 days, somebody say 2 days, in 2 days, his life is changed forever. Everything that he put his trust in to get some money is taken away from him. All his children, his beautiful children, they dead, gone. And now he's struck with boils all on his head to his toes. This brother is going through some pain. And I know you've been through some pain and you've been through some hard times before. And you know, oftentimes when we go through hard times, here come people. Here's the second point I want to get y'all. Come on, I'm going to the second point. When you're going through some tough times, here come the friends and the family. And you would think that when the friends and the family arrive, that it's time for them to provide some comfort. That it's time for them to provide some care, some assistance, some just listening to us. Oh, but no. He has 4 friends that show up and his wife show up. And let's see what they do. First of all, when Job is struggling with this boils, the boils that are going on his body, he takes some pottery and he scratches the surface. And you would think that in this time, his wife would just be there and say, baby, just hold on to the faith. It's going to be all right. You know what? We've been through hard times before. We'll get through this. Oh, no, she did not say that. She said, Job, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Why are you up here trying to still act like you got it all together? Why don't you just curse God and die? That's what his wife said. I don't know about you, but can I say it like this? His sons and his daughters were taken out. His wife should have been taken out. Did I say that? I don't condone killing wives and husbands and your mates, but it just seems in Job's predicament, it seems like God allowed the wrong people to be taken out. How dare his wife come over there and say, you're trying to still keep your integrity? You're trying to still live holy? You're trying to still honor God? Why don't you just curse God and die? That's what people around him are bringing to him in this situation. I'm trying to get y'all to understand and paint a picture for you all to understand what is going on in the life of Job when he's suffering. His own wife is bringing strife and pain. And not only is his wife bringing all of this, I need to introduce you to 4 friends of Job. We have Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar, and Elihu. I'm going to say that one more time. Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar, and Elihu. These are 4 friends, that's 3 friends rather, in the beginning. And then connects. Come on. All right, I think we back on here. All right, so these 3 friends coming, you know, and they realize Job is going through some pain, and they start off doing well. They get some dust, and in that culture, they throw it behind their shoulder, and that is to suggest that they are in grieving moments, and they kind of support him, and they just sit down with him for 7 days and 7 nights, and they just kind of listen to Job just go through this pain. And you know what? That sounded good in the beginning, but oh, how many of you all know people are fickle? People are not God. People have weaknesses. People are frail. Here come his friends, and with all of these, I want to say bright ideas. Instead of being comfort for Job, instead of just listening to Job, instead of just offering, how can I help you? They start bringing criticism. If you read the book of Job, you'll find that Bildad and Eliphaz and Zophar, here they come saying, well, Job, I know you in a predicament, but you must have been doing some bad things if, you know, you're facing all these issues with your children dying and you not even able to make money anymore. You must have been doing some wrong things. You must have denied some people joy. You must have, I won't go through the specific assumptions. I listed it last night. But basically what they're saying is you must have been acting bad or unless you wouldn't have been receiving this punishment. Yep, I'm not going to be your friend today. I'm not going to be the one that comforts you. I'm going to be your accuser. I'm going to be your criticizer. I'm going to say, if you would not have done this, Job, then you know what? You wouldn't have received what you're receiving. I know y'all know some people like that. You got some friends out there. When you needed them to just comfort you, when you needed them to just provide a helping hand, here they come with their criticisms. They're in your life saying, well, you know what? If you wouldn't have slept with that man, if you wouldn't have slept with that woman, you probably wouldn't have had that baby, and you probably wouldn't be in the situation you're in. If you wouldn't have squandered all your money on that gambling and shopping for all that other stuff, you probably wouldn't be in debt right now. If you would have studied for that test, you would have got that promotion. Here they come with all their criticisms, but I came to tell somebody, when we're going through the suffering times, when we're going through the pain, we don't need friends to criticize us. We don't need friends to criticize us. We need friends to show compassion. Somebody say compassion. When God allows you to suffer, here's the number 2 point. When God allows you to suffer, you need to surround yourself with family and friends that don't offer criticism, they offer compassion. Oh, come on now. I know y'all have lost a loved one. Some of y'all have lost a loved one in the past or in the recent, I don't know, in the recent past or whatever. And you know what? You've had people come by and it seems as though the spirit wasn't well, because when you thought they were just going to comfort you, here they come talking about the one who left. Here they come saying, well, you know what? He always didn't eat right. He never exercised. And you know what? He didn't treat people right. So he had it coming to him. Or she was never my friend. She was always jealous. So, you know, the Lord just had to take her home. Where is your compassion? You are offering criticism, but you're not offering compassion. So yeah, Job needed friends that offered compassion, and you need friends that offer compassion. If you're paying attention to what I'm saying, when God allows you to suffer, number 1, it may be because he's trying to figure out if your relationship with him is conditional. Number 2, you need to surround yourself with friends and family that not give you criticism, but give you compassion. And so I'm just trying to keep it going. I got 2 more points and I'm going to let you go. Okay, so Job is dealing with the fact that he doesn't have his children anymore because they're dead and gone. He's dealing with the fact that he doesn't have his donkeys and his sheep and his oxen and his servants because they're gone too. He's dealing with the fact that he has an outbreak on his skin that is causing him pain in the form of boils. He's dealing with the fact that he got some trifling friends that don't offer compassion but offer criticism. He is dealing with the fact that he got a crazy wife talking about you shouldn't be maintaining your integrity, you should just curse God and die. I'm trying to paint the picture to you all. Job is going through hell, and you going through hell too. So let me take you through the mind of someone who is going through hell. I want you to realize what Job was going through and how it probably will resonate to your life. Resonate in your life. In chapter 1 and 2 of Job, after all this stuff, we find Job starts off with positivity. Come on, somebody say positivity. Yeah. Job, after all, is a wonderful man. He is a rich man. He knows the goodness of God, and he starts off like a lot of us start off, with positivity. We know he starts off with positivity because in chapter 1, he says after he lost his children, he basically says, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. If that's not positivity, I don't know what is. If you lose your children and you can still say the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh, blessed be the name of the Lord. He starts off with positivity, and how many of you all know that as God-fearing people, sometimes we always like to start off with positivity. We start off with praise because that is the wonderful thing to do. We got to make sure that we honor our God, and we start off with positivity. When you've lost some things, when you suffer some things, you start off with positivity and optimism. But how many of you all know that can only last for so long? Come on now, I know we're blessed and highly favored. I know we serve a mighty God. But come on now, let's be real. If you are Superman, He-Man, She-Man, Wonder Woman all of the time, I'm going to have some issues with you. Yeah. If you're always positive, something is wrong with you. So he starts off with positivity. But come on now, can I tell you where he went? And some of you all know what Job is talking about and how Job is feeling. Job starts off with positivity, but then he goes right into depression. Somebody say depression. I don't care how strong you are. When you're fighting a trial, when you're going through suffering, you may find that you start off real well. You start off with positivity. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But then you start talking about some things like Job was talking about. Cursed be the day that I was ever born. What, Job? First of all, you were praising God. Now you over here talking about basically you wish you weren't born. Have you ever been in that situation? Things were going well, things were on your side, and you were like, hey, but then you start thinking about the reality and you say, man, forget this. And you don't even say forget, you say that word, you know what you say. You say, forget this, I wish I wasn't even born. Life is too hard, why am I still here? Lord, you over here saying that I'm blessed and I'm highly favored, but I'm going through, and I wish I wasn't even born. Cursed be the day that I was born. I'm talking about a brother who's going through some things right now, and you know you're going through it too. So come on, somebody say it with me. He starts with positivity. He transitions into depression. And this is within, what, 3 chapters? Real quick. Positivity, depression. And now after he's done, what skepticism is. Skepticism is when you question some things. You become leery about some things. You have been taught all your life that God is a God that serves his children, that he always is there. He will never leave us nor forsake us. But in Job's time of need, it seems as though God has left him. So he starts thinking about all the things he had been taught. And you start thinking about all the things you've been taught by your mother and your father. You start thinking about your past situations. You start thinking about Sunday school and how they just said that if I just be good and if I treat my neighbor like myself, then God is going to bless me. He starts thinking about all these things, and he starts saying, basically, the innocent are equal to the wicked. That is a powerful statement by this brother. It is a statement of skepticism, because in their culture, they were taught that if you do well, you will be blessed. But he's not being blessed. So he says, Lord, it seems to me that the innocent are equal to the wicked. Have you ever been in a time in your life where you felt that serving God is really not benefiting you? Why is it not benefiting you? Because it seems like the things that you're trying to go after, the wicked are getting before you. Come on now. Who am I talking to right now? Who am I talking to that has that idea about that business, that has that idea about that promotion that they want to get, that has that idea about that dollar figure that they want in their account, and they've been going to church and they've been praying and they've been serving and they've been dancing and shouting it out and doing all this only to come up short, only to miss the mark, only to not get it. And then, oh God, the wicked have the audacity to be walking all of these things out. The wicked have the audacity to be making all this money. The wicked have the audacity to seemingly have all this peace of mind. The wicked, those who cuss God out, it seems as though they're living the blessed life. It seems like they're doing all that they're supposed to be doing. What is the difference? Somebody say, what is the difference? What's the difference? That's what Job said. What's the difference between the innocent and the wicked? The wicked. It seems like God treats them the same. So I'm backing up a little bit. Job starts with positivity. He goes to depression. And then he goes into skepticism. This is all what happens in the mind of Job when he is allowed to suffer by God. Positivity, depression, and skepticism. And this is what happens. He goes from skepticism to straight up anger. Have you ever been in a situation where you start questioning some things about God, and then you say, man, forget all these questions. I'm mad at you, God. I'm mad because you're letting me go through this. I'm mad because everything that I was taught is not being realized and manifested in my life. I'm mad because why is everybody else being blessed and you are taking all these things away from me? So he goes into anger. And he basically says, in essence, I'm not going to go through the whole scripture because this is the shorter version of it. He's basically saying, God, the innocent are being treated like the wicked, and you are making me bitter. How the audacity that Job has when he says that he's saying God, the one who used to bless him, is now making him bitter. This brother is angry. I'm taking you through the mind of the one who is involved in suffering, and you can relate to it. You will start off with positivity. You'll go into depression. You'll start questioning some things, go into skepticism. Then you'll go into anger, just like Job did. And so he's angry. And now here's the best part. It's a rather rebellious part on Job's behalf, but it does bring God to the center of it all. After he's dealt with his anger, he gets some holy boldness in him and gives a straight out demand. He says, I'm stopping all this being angry to you, questioning you. I need you to show up, and I need you to show up now and explain to me why this innocent man is going through these things. Have you ever been in a situation where you're saying, forget all this anger, forget all this roller coaster of emotions? God, I need you to show up now. If you don't show up and explain to me what's going on, I may blow my brains out. Oh, y'all don't want to talk to me out here. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed God to come through and you give him an outright demand? That is what Job is doing today. If you're paying attention, point number three is, when you are suffering, when God allows you to suffer, be prepared to bring your roller coaster of emotions straight to God. Yeah. You can bring that positivity to God. Go ahead and bring that depression to God. Bring that skepticism to God. Go ahead and bring that anger to God. Bring your demands to God, because you know what? We are children that have to be honest to God. Time is out for those trying to be Supermen and X-Men and all these superpowers, trying to act like you got it all together. If you got it all together, you lying. You lying. You need to come on and be real with God. God basically said, I believe King Solomon said that there's 6 things that God hates, absolutely hates. I'm not going to go through all 6 of them, but one of them was a lying tongue, and also basically a witness that gives a false testimony, another lie. So it's not a coincidence that God hates lying. Even though he hates lying in the tongue, don't you know that God can discern when you're lying in your heart? God can discern when you don't give all of those emotions up to him, when you don't tell him about your depression, when you don't tell him about your anger, when you don't tell him about your skepticism. That, in essence, you may not be talking a lie, but you may be living a lie, because you're not releasing all those things to God. And so you need to bring all of those roller coasters of emotions straight up to God. That's how we get through this thing. I promised you in the beginning, we may not figure out the reason why we're suffering, but we may realize how we're going to get through this time of suffering. I got one more point for y'all, and then I'm gonna let you go. If you have been paying attention, the first point, when God allows you to suffer, the first point is, it may be because God is trying to figure out if your relationship with him is based on a condition. Just like the unconditional love he gives, he wants to make sure that you give him some conditional love as well. That's point number one. Unconditional love. Number two is, when God allows you to suffer, you need to surround yourself with friends and family who don't offer criticism, but who offer compassion. You don't need Zophars and Bildads and Eliphazes and Elihus. That's all they gonna do is talk about, well, you probably was sinning. That's why you going through this. You probably don't fear God. That's why you've been doing it. No, you need to get rid of them people, because they're supposed to be providing you rest and comfort and compassion. All right, that's number two. Number three, bring all your roller coaster of emotions to the Lord, and he will make sure that you hear something. He made sure that Job heard something. And let me go into my fourth point. So God shows up on the scene. He's been monitoring all of these discussions from Job and his friends. He's been hearing all of the anguish that Job has in his heart. And he's finally shows up after Job demanded him to show up. And it's such a funny way that God responds, because I thought that God was just going to immediately say, Job, I know you've been going through some things, but let me just turn it all around. Let me place your feet on solid ground, and let me just bless you in your time of need. Let me just be the God that's your provision. Let me do all this for you. Nope, that ain't what he says. Have you ever been caught off guard by God? He didn't say none of that. Basically, I'm not going to read the text because I'm in my car, but basically what he said was, Job, where were you when the foundations of the earth were being laid? Where were you when the sun was created? Where were you when the oceans were created? Are you the one that keeps the ocean from receding into or overtaking the earth, the land? Are you the one that causes the rain to come down? Are you the one that causes the wind to come from the east to the west? Are you the one that has set up this whole thing we call earth and this whole thing we know about existence? Are you the one? Because here's the point that he's trying to make. If you are the one that created all this thing that we call earth, if you're the one who the King of Kings is, if you're the one who the Lord of Lords is, then that would mean that you are able to properly define what justice is supposed to look like. Y'all not hearing me in here. What he is saying is, I know you and your friends been living down there on earth, and I know you've come up with your little definition of what justice is supposed to be. You're trying to figure out, and you have concluded that if you live well, then you're supposed to be done right. And if you just do what you're supposed to do, people are supposed to bless you. I'm supposed to bless you. Have you realized that, first of all, that is your carnal mind thinking? Don't you know that I told you way before that your thoughts are not my thoughts and your ways are not my ways? So when you're trying to figure out how they should be wronged, how you should be treated, how your life is supposed to go, please don't come up here thinking that you're on my level. That's what God is saying, and he came to tell somebody today, please don't think that you on his level. Please don't think that you can help him out. Please don't think that you got it all figured out. Please don't think that you know everything. I know you went to business school. I know you went to medical school. I know you went to law school, and that equipped you with some knowledge in those areas. But please don't think you've gone to the God school of life. Please don't think you were here before the foundations of the earth. Please don't think that you created the expanses in the sky. Please don't think that you're on my level. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. And then he goes into a little dissertation. He says, in other words, he basically says, you want the keys? You want to hop in the driver's seat? You want to control all this stuff that goes on in the world? You want to fix some things out? You want to monitor all of these billions of people in here trying to work on their behalf? You want to figure out, the best thing for the world? You want the keys? I don't know about you, but if God presented me the keys to go into and run the world, I would fail every time. I got issues and problems and difficulties just managing my own family. How in the world am I going to try to figure out how to manage the world? So he basically says, You want the keys since you think you know about me and what justice is supposed to look like? I didn't think so. And that's what happens when Job hears that. He basically says, God, you're right. You're right. I was trying to think about some things based on my carnal mind. I was equating justice with what I've learned here on earth. But you're right. I'm sorry. And so that's what we need to do also. It says in the text that he repented of his ways, that he charged God with ruining his life. He realized his faults and he declared that, yes, you are Lord. And you know what? If you saw fit for some things to happen, I just got to put my trust in you and realize that you are the one who has all the knowledge, and I will just submit. Here's my last thing, and I promise you all I'm going home. Here's the recap, y'all. When God allows you to suffer, he may be trying to figure out if your relationship with him is based on a condition. Number two, when God allows you to suffer, surround yourself with family and friends that offer you not criticism, but compassion. Number three, when God allows you to suffer, bring all your roller coaster of emotions straight to him. Bring all that anger, that depression, that positivity, that skepticism, all to him. Number four, when God allows you to suffer, you may realize that you're not qualified to figure out what justice is supposed to look like. You may realize that you're not qualified to realize and determine who's supposed to be taken out, who's supposed to be suffering, who's supposed to be neglected. You're not qualified for that. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow. That's not my word. That's the word of God. Before I go into this office and do some work, let me tell y'all what happened at the end. At the end, when God shows up and he starts talking to Job, he starts talking to Job's friend. I believe, and y'all gonna test my Bible knowledge, I believe he was talking to, I want to say it was Eliphaz. If it ain't Eliphaz, it's Bildad. So yeah, he was talking to Eliphaz and he said, hey Eliphaz, you know what, y'all were talking about me down there. Y'all were over there saying that, you know, I'm not a just God, and you know, I surely Job must have been sinning if I was gonna bring all this pain on his life. Y'all was speaking real bad about me, and I didn't appreciate it. So you know what? To get back in good standing with me, I need y'all to give me a sacrifice. So he said, go ahead and give me that sacrifice, and then I want Job to pray over all y'all. There's power in prayer. I'm not going to go into that sermon, but sometimes, you know, you may not be able to get in good standing with God unless you start praying for over some folks. Even folks that really did you wrong, you may have to pray over them to get in good standing with God. But he says, Job, pray over your little friends out there who claim to be your friends but are talking all these bad things about me. So guess what Job does? He prays for his friends. And I know you've heard in the history, in your experience, that at the end, Job was granted double of what he had. Yes, it was true that Job was given 10 more children by God. He was given 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 teams of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys, and many servants. Yes, it was true that he was provided double, and your grandmother or your father or your grandfather would say Job received double for his trouble. I came to tell you that is a lie from the pit of hell. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but that is a lie. I came to tell you that Job received double for his obedience. Somebody say obedience. Yeah. Job, I am convinced when I read the text and it says God gave Job double, it said, basically he said that after Job prayed for his friends, after Job did what God told him to do, after Job obeyed. Who am I talking to today? I want to tell you that yes, you may be going through some suffering and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get through this thing. I came to tell you that you may not even figure out the reason why you're suffering, but you can control this latter part right here. You can control whether or not you obey what God tells you to do. I came to tell you that when you are reading and when you are praying to the Lord, he will show up just like he showed up to Job, and he will tell you to do some things. The choice is yours. Will you continue to be mad at God? Will you continue to feel like God is not a just God? Will you continue to feel like that he doesn't know your pain? And will you continue to feel like God is not owed your sacrifice and your obedience? Or will you straight up obey? Obey. Obey. If you don't hear anything else I said today, when you're going through suffering, obey. I don't care how hard it is, obey. If he tells you to go love the one who hated you, obey. If he tells you to go pour in some things to certain ministries and organizations and things that may take your money away from you, obey. You got to obey him at all costs. I know the text says, which supports this claim, that obedience is greater than sacrifice. Obedience is greater than sacrifice. You need to make sure that you obey. If you didn't hear anything else I said, I am going to go into this office and do some work. I just wanted to make sure that you all heard this message today. Here's the last thing, and I'm out. When God allows you to suffer, I know you have been taught that God is not a God that is authorized to not give you 24 hours of protection. I know you felt as though that God is always supposed to come there in your time of need. But the message today, and God wants to tell you, is you're not God. He reserves the right to do whatever he wants to do. He reserves the right to take away who he wants to take away. I know I don't want to seem like I don't have compassion, because I know that really hurts us inside. He reserves the right to deny us of some things. He reserves the right to let the enemy go ahead and test us. He deserves the right to allow things to be taken away from us. He deserves the right. After all, he's the one that started all of this. So when you are going through and you are suffering, first of all, it may be because God is trying to figure out if your relationship with him is unconditional or conditional. Does it take the good things to occur before you are going to worship him? Does it take sunny skies and a bed of roses for you to worship him and honor him? That's number one. Point number two is, just like Job had some friends venture or visit him during his time of need, you need to surround yourself with some friends that offer not criticism when you're suffering, but when they offer compassion. God is a God of compassion. Jesus had compassion all throughout the synoptic gospels. Jesus was over there showing compassion when he raised the widow's son back to life, when they were having a funeral procession, before he fed the 5,000. You know, he showed compassion because he wanted to make sure every need was met. He showed compassion when he restored the sight of the two men that were blind. I don't know about you all, but Jesus is a God. Yes, he's the God in flesh. He is the Son of God. He served compassion, so I have to serve compassion, and my friends need to serve me compassion when I'm going through some suffering. That's point number two. Point number three is, just like Job went through a roller coaster of emotions, and I'm glad that all y'all are joining. I want y'all to listen to this video when I post it. I want you to replay it, all right? Number three is, first of all, Job went through a range of emotions when he was suffering. He started off with positivity. He went straight up after the positivity to depression. He went from depression to skepticism. He went from skepticism to anger, and he went to anger to straight up outright demand from God. Those are 5 things that not only Job went through, you will probably find yourself going through those things when you go through suffering. God says for point number 3, you need to bring all of those things to him. I know we have been raised in a culture that says we got to be independent. We don't have to succumb to our emotions. We got to be Superman and Superwoman, and because we are blessed by God, nothing should be bad in our life. But God says that is a lie. I need you to be honest with me. I need you to bring all of those roller coaster of emotions to me. That's point number 3. Point number 4, when you bring all of those things to him and you're questioning him and asking him, why is this stuff happening? Don't be surprised if he gives you an answer that was not expected. I know you expect him to just make sure he brings out his huge eraser and erase all the bad things that are going on in your life, but don't be surprised if God is going to be God, and he may straight up tell you, who are you to tell me how to act? Were you here when the foundations of the earth were created? Are you the one that's making the sun rise and the moon set? Are you the one that's creating the oceans and the expanses in the heavens? Are you the one that keeps the ocean back from or going into the land? Are you the one who runs the kingdom of the world? If you're not, don't be up here trying to tell me how to run the world. Don't tell me what your definition of justice is supposed to be. Don't tell me how you think somebody should be punished. Don't tell me what you think somebody, how you think somebody should be treated based on their actions. I am God, and I am God all by myself. And so your ways are not my ways, and your thoughts are not my thoughts. So that's number 4. And number 5, after all is said and done, after you've prayed, after you've gone to him, after you've told him about your story, after you've spent those lonely nights, what if he doesn't give you an answer? What if he doesn't tell you the reason for why you're suffering? Came to tell you that's out of your control. But what is under your control is your ability to obey. That's the thing God told me, that under this message you will receive comfort today. And the reason you're going to receive comfort is not knowing why you're suffering, but knowing how to suffer. Meaning whatever that's going on, whatever he tells you to do, you're going to obey. He may tell you to do some things in your time of suffering that look so crazy. He may tell you to go love on some people and show them some kindness, who the people that did you wrong. He may tell you, to put all of your energy into this certain thing. Whatever it is he tells you, you need to obey, just like Job did. I need to obey just like Job did. And so after all that's said and done, you may not figure out why you're suffering, but you will figure out how to get through the suffering. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the shorter version of when God allows you to suffer. Share this with your friends. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Continue to like my videos. All right, take care. Deuces.